Hi there. I'm Kevin from healthagentacademy.com. I just want to say that selling insurance is an exciting professional career opportunity that allows you the chance to make great money while truly helping people. I'm an insurance agent myself, and I've had the privilege as the head of training for an insurance agency to help quite a few agents get up and running, getting their license and getting everything they need in order to start their insurance career. And my objective here today is to show you um, what you need to do to get a license to sell life and health insurance. Now, you can generally get a license for either just health insurance or just life insurance. In this presentation, you can use this either way, but my recommendation is if you're looking to just sell life insurance or just sell health insurance, you might as well get whatever license is available to you that allows you to do both. Because what that allows you to do is if down the road you decide, well, I do now want to kind of dip my toe and sell the other line of insurance, you're already set up and ready to go. So you might as well, if you're going to invest the time, the money, and the effort in order to get a license, you might as well just spend just a fraction of a bit more just so you don't have to do it later. Because it always is easier just to do it on the front end. So what we're going to do here is just go over some basic requirements of what you need to get a license. Do check with your specific state on the requirements that they have. The requirements tend to be pretty similar in every state, but no matter where you live, every state is going to have some particular requirements that they have in place. They'll be slightly different than other states, but we're going to go through the high level of what you need to know in order to get a health insurance, health and life insurance license for your particular state. And the key is the licenses are set up by state. So every state has a governing body. Now you can get what's called out of state licenses, or typically what is referred to as a resident license for the state that you live in and a non-resident license for other states. And in order to get non-resident licenses, if you live in Nebraska and you want to, for example, get licensed in Texas, you'd have to first get licensed in Nebraska where you live, and then you can get licensed in Texas, assuming Nebraska and Texas have a reciprocal relationship, which most states do have some sort of reciprocal relationship in place. So just to give you the high level here of what you need to do in order to get your license, we'll go through these steps here real quick. Then we'll go into more depth here right afterwards. And then also, if you look down below, we've got the notes set up so you can have this for you. But just to real quick give you a quick high-level synopsis here. First, you want to check with your state's exact requirements. And you can typically do a quick Google search to get that, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. Then you're going to sign up for an approved pre-licensing course. Generally, they're about 40 hours or so long. We'll go into a little more depth on that. Then you want to get your background check or your fingerprints taken, just a formality you have to go through. You want to schedule your exam, and typically after you're done with your licensing course, you are going to have to register with the state and apply for your license, formally applying for it. And then you also have to pass a test, and there is quite a lengthy test to go through, but we'll talk more about that here in just a little bit. So first step, just to go a little more in depth on that, is to check your state's requirements. As I mentioned before, the requirements are going to be very state specific because you have to get your license not with the United States, but with a particular state, so whatever state you live in. A couple things you want to look for when you are looking up your state's particular requirements is you want to look first, what are their basic eligibility requirements, such as what minimum ages do they have. Typically it's 18 to 21, depends on the state. They pretty much all require that you are a resident of the state, so that there's any little nuances, like for example, if you spend certain months in one state and certain months in another state, you kind of divide your time, you definitely want to look into that as to which state you would be, quote unquote, your residency in. And then you want to also make sure that if there's any sort of rules or regulations as far as work authorization, which they pretty much all have some sort of work authorization to work in the United States, but you just want to check all those just to make sure if there's any little details on their checklist, just to even be eligible. You just want to make sure you meet all those requirements, which usually they're pretty basic, but you do want to make sure you check them. So then what you want to do is also check to see what specific procedures they have. So generally speaking, every state's going to have different vendors that you can use for things like taking your exam or background checks. So you just want to make sure you follow their specific procedures on getting licensed, because there's no sense spending time and effort um, towards getting the license and it turns out you took the wrong test or the wrong um, or your background check didn't count. So you want to make sure that that is all taking you in the right direction. So best way to do all this, just do a quick Google search. Generally speaking, insurance agent licensing is going to be either by Department of Financial Services or Department of Insurance, depends on your state and what the state agency is called, but they're all something along those lines. You could Google whatever the name is of your state insurance agent licensing or life and health agent licensing, something to that effect, and just include your state in the Google search, and you usually find it pretty quickly. So then what you're going to do is you're going to sign up for a pre-licensing course. Now, the pre-licensing courses, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can sign up either for a classroom setting where, for example, 6 to 9 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursday nights, you're in a classroom. Some people like that because it gives them the flexibility, or not flexibility, but it requires them to be at a certain date and time, so it helps them stay disciplined. A lot of people tend to like to do online, which the nice thing is nowadays there's some actually really good courses you can take online. So that way you have flexibility in your schedule so that, assuming you're a busy person, which we all seem to be these days, you would be able to fit into whatever works for your schedule in order to take the course. Also know that there are some private companies that do the courses, and depending on your state, there may also be colleges that do it. So depending on what you're looking for. Then what I would also and I'll show you a little bit more about this, I would also make sure to note that the quality of courses can vary very widely between different companies or courses that you can go through. Even though it's the same materials, some teach it a little differently. And the reason I say that they seem to be teaching it slightly differently is because some have completely different pass rates for their students. Some may be in the 30s or 40s, or some might be in the 70s for pass rates. So you definitely want to try to go to a company with a higher pass rate. So just to show you a quick example here real quick, I'm going to go to here in the state of Florida. If I go to where I live, every state probably has, I've seen quite a few different states. I can't say all states, but I've seen quite a few different states have something similar where you can actually see for pre-licensing education, you can see the pass-fail rates of pre-licensing school providers' students. So we're going to do that here real quick, just to show you Florida, and we'll show you the company that I recommend using. So what we would do is we would go to rates. So 2015, this is actually for in general. So real quick, sorry about that. We're going to go here to 2014 report cards. So for life, health, and variable annuity, which would be the Florida Life and Health test. Now, here you can see there's all these different companies here in this column. I'm going to zoom in here just to make it a little easier to see. So if I zoom in here, you can see there's all kinds of different pass rates. So there's some, they may only have a few students, or it says total attempts. That's how many students they have. Some in the thousands, some, just less than 10. But you want to take a look over here at pass rate, and there'd be something similar pretty much for every state. So you want to find a company that's established. So for example, here 2,600 total attempts. So they've definitely have a lot of experience. This particular company, I'm not even sure which one it is, but they definitely have a lot. But then their pass rate's right around 50%, as you can see here. So then what you can do is you can just look and see, find a company that has quite a few students have taken the test and has a good pass rate. Now, who I'm going to recommend is a particular company that I send at the agency I work for, our students. It's this company here at License Coach. You can see zoom in just a little bit better there. But they've got pass rate of above 70% and over 1,000 students have taken it. Good company. The people that I've recommended that have taken it have spoken highly of the course itself, and their pass rate is well above the average for Florida, and my understanding is it is across the country as well. So, and you can verify that yourself if you'd like. Otherwise, you can always go to, I'll have the link down below, as well as the nice thing is they're a good company to work with, and they actually gave us a discount for people that are watching this video. So there's a coupon code if you want to save a few dollars as well. But of course, you're welcome to go with any company you want, but I would highly recommend them just because they do have a higher pass rate than average. So it is definitely helpful for their students because their students are less likely to have to retake the test. So next, what you want to do is after you've signed up for your pre-licensing course, probably while you're in the middle of taking the course, you want to go ahead and start whatever you have to do for the background check and getting your fingerprints. What I would just keep in mind is that every state has different requirements for this. Make sure that if you do go out and get fingerprints or background check or whatever the case is, that you're going through whatever vendor they recommend. There's no sense keeping your license on hold. If, for example, you've passed the test and you've done everything else, but it turns out you've gone through the wrong background check channel, there's no sense keeping everything delayed on that. So just make sure you go through the fine print, so to speak, with the state, and if they have links on their website of this is the vendor to go with, just click that link and go through whoever it is. And the reason I say that is, like, for example, here in Florida, you must use a particular vendor, and that vendor you can only use for the purposes of Department of Financial Services, who oversees agent licensing here in my home state of Florida, and the results can't be any more than a year old. So if you had taken a background check to get licensed for property and casualty, for example, even if it was going through Department of Financial Services through their correct vendor, you wouldn't be able to use those if they were more than a year old. So if you'd done it 2 years ago, it would be too long. Or also, if you had used that particular vendor and it was for real estate or another purpose, you most likely wouldn't be able to use those. So definitely make sure you double check with your particular state as to what their requirements are. But it's pretty basic, pretty straightforward. But just double check that because you don't want to spend time or money and thinking like you can go to your local police station or something like that to get fingerprints. You want to make sure to go through whatever channel they tell you have to go through. All right, so the next step, you want to schedule your exam. Typically what's going to happen is you're going to have to take it at a testing center of some sort of requirement. So if you have to show up to a particular location to take the test, what's going to end up happening is a lot of times these testing centers, they don't just do insurance tests. Oftentimes you're going to be going to a testing center where they're having all kinds of different tests that people are taking that could be for a wide variety of reasons. Some for, licensing, some for continuing education, for some other profession. I mean, who knows? But what I'm really getting at there is that the slots in order to take the test tend to book pretty fast. So I've seen where people have to wait 4 weeks or even longer sometimes to take a test at the local place where you go to take tests. So if you're able to, I would try to schedule your test when you're probably about halfway through with your licensing course. If you're anything like me, it's going to be helpful for you because I like to have something on the calendar because it gives me a deadline and I work towards it. It keeps me motivated. That's one benefit of doing it. And then also, too, check with whatever company you do. If you do have some sort of company that you go through to take the pre-licensing exam, that they have some sort of rebooking cancellation policy. Because the nice thing is, let's say you put it on the calendar and you put it out for 3 weeks out, and then you get to about a week out and you're like, oh wait, I'm not even close to done with my exam. Stuff has popped up in your life or whatever the case is. Typically they have some sort of cancellation reschedule policy. Let's say, for example, it's 48 hours. Just know whatever the particular policy is, but you can always change it later typically. Usually they're not set in stone, but as long as you know what the cancellation policy is or a reschedule policy, you can always change it. Then what you want to do is next, you want to formally apply for your license. So every state, of course, you go to that particular state's website and you apply, or you fill out some form and send it in, or wherever the case is. If you're able to apply online, I would recommend applying online. It just tends to make the whole thing go faster. So that way, if you print something out and you mail it in, then you have to, wait a couple days for it to get there in the mail. Then someone has to process the mail. Whereas usually when it goes in online, it's there and they already have it and it goes into their database. So you want things to go as quickly as possible. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take the test. So as we talked about, let's say you have to take the test and it's at a testing center. If you studied hard and you took a good pre-licensing course, you've given yourself the best shot of passing. So I've seen a lot of people get really nervous when they take this test. The best thing to do, in my opinion, is don't just try to memorize the terms that you've learned. Try to make sure that you can talk about them in your own words, which is good practice because when you're an insurance agent, you're having to explain things to people who don't have an insurance background. So you have to make sure that you not just can understand what's being taught to you, but being able to speak about it, which is, as I said, good practice for when you're out there selling insurance. So best thing to do is if there's topics that you're having problems with, just kind of remembering and really kind of grasping, and it happens to everyone, so don't feel bad if it does. But the best thing to do is find someone, friend, family member, or whatever, and call them up and say, hey, I need your help. I need to explain group life insurance or whatever the case is, and try to explain it to them in a way that they understand what you're talking about. And if they do, usually that means you understand it. So there's different ways of learning. There's memorizing, there's knowing it in your own terminology, and there's being able to explain it to others. And if you can explain it to others, then you really have a good handle on that particular information, which is what you want to be able to do so that you can hopefully pass that test the first time. So a couple things about the exam. I've seen a lot of people, get really frightened, as I was mentioning before, about taking the test, and you'll get real nervous, really worked up. Don't get too worked up. The key is when you show up, you've hopefully done your best and studied as much as you can. So just give yourself the best shot. So, as long as you took it serious and you studied, you should be okay. I mean, just keep in mind that everyone out there who currently sells insurance has been in your shoes. They've taken the exam. They've had to study. They had to do whatever there was. They were probably nervous. There's probably concepts they still aren't even sure about. But whatever the case is, just do your best. And just know that you don't have to pass the first time. I mean, it's ideally that you do, but if you don't, it's not the end of the world. I've seen some really, really, really smart people who have had to take it multiple times. I've seen a lot of people pass it the first time. I myself passed it the first time, actually. But no matter what happens, don't feel bad. So the key is just be focused, study hard, and do your best. And then hopefully once you've passed, then it's time to just get up and running. The pre-licensing is behind you at that point. You get appointed with some insurance carriers. You start talking to some potential clients and hopefully make yourself some money in this business. So once you're up and running, or even while you're getting licensed, stop by healthagentacademy.com, which is a website I run, which is totally free, where you can stop by, just get some basic information, sign up for our email list. I'll send you a free ebook on more information about selling health insurance, and just stay on top of what all is going on. So I really would like to just wish you the best of luck in your new insurance career, and whether this is a part-time or this is a full-time commitment for you, I really and truly hope that you do well with this, and it's been as successful it has for you as it has been for me and for my family. So I wish you the best of luck, and hope to hear from you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.